Yes, I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, Jeff?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talking. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, man, one time during my career, I was on a Formula One tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian, bringing you all of that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Miss Cass, the drunk Irishman, Mike Mazik. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, all-time greatest. All-time greatest. We're going to look at the all-time greatest in 6 different categories today. We're going to look at the all-time greatest uncrowned champions, the all-time greatest catchers, that's fighters that would take 2 or 3 punches just to get one in, like a Jake LaMotta, Gaddy, that type of fighter. The all-time greatest masters of the jab, all-time greatest body punchers, all-time cockiest boxers, and the all-time worst cheap shots. Okay? Tomorrow we're going to look at Gene Tunney. Thursday, boxing in Germany. Friday, the life and career of Mikey Garcia. But how's everyone today? It's Tuesday, still early in this big, huge week of boxing history we're embarking on. Thank you, Mike Masick. Happy Veterans Day to all veterans. Okay. Of which I happen to be one myself. I was a Zoomy, United States Air Force. But happy Veterans Day to all veterans. Appreciate your service 1,000,000%. Okay? So yeah, today is going to be all-time greatest. Okay? But first, we're going to do something a little different for the fight of the day today. But let's get into it first. Then we'll talk about it. Okay, for the fight of the day today, we're going to look at 12 Manny Pacquiao moments, okay? 12 different fights that Manny Pacquiao was in. It's 12 what the F Manny Pacquiao moments, okay? So we take a look back and appreciate the Pac-Man's extraordinary career and celebrate some of the Manny moments that made him a one-of-a-kind superstar. Now, some of these moments made us nod in reverence or gasp in awe, while on occasion, others made us shake our heads in embarrassment or pity. Now, the Pac-Man's career was primarily one of incredible success, but along the way, there were some valleys, which of course only made the peaks that much better. When you add it all up, there's no doubt Manny Pacquiao is as worthy of celebration as any other boxing superstar. For proof, look no further than the following 12 unforgettable what the F Manny Pacquiao moments. Okay, so let's get into it. 12 what the F Manny Pacquiao moments. Now, there's the Pac-Man up there. Okay, January 26th. 2006. January 26, 2006. The Mexicutioner arrives. The Mexicutioner arrives. Now, before Mexican style, there was the Mexicutioner. After Pacquiao won a super bantamweight belt from Lalo Ledwaba on 2 weeks' notice, mind you, he embarked on a journey of destruction against Aztec prize fighters. He knocked out Emmanuel Lucero in 3, outclassed and stopped Marco Antonio Barrera over 11, and dropped Juan Manuel Marquez 3 times before earning a controversial draw. Then came Erik Morales. Now, while Manny Pacquiao's first encounter against El Turbo was a dramatic battle that saw him drop a clear decision, it also set up one of the Filipinos' biggest wins when in front of a packed Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas. He enacted revenge on Morales. Pacquiao dropped the Mexican great twice in the 10th round, gave him the worst beating of his career to that point, and stopped him for the first time in his career, okay? The outcome moved Larry Merchant to call Pacquiao a demigod, a combination of Ali, Elvis, and Bruce Lee. After we managed to lift our jaws up from the floor, the rest of us just called him effing amazing. May 8th, 2004. Lightning strikes 3 times. Lightning strikes 3 times. The opening 3 minutes of Manny Pacquiao's rivalry with Juan Manuel Marquez still represent perhaps his most brutal display of aggression against an elite talent. Marquez was taking his time, mostly retreating and feigning, trying to figure out Pacquiao's timing, when boom, a left hand explodes on his face and sends him to the canvas. Now the Mexican gets up, decides to bring the fight to Pacquiao, only for the southpaw to unleash another combination, and boom, there it is again. That freaking left fist square on his nose, sending Marquez to the floor again. Surely it couldn't happen a third time, right? Think again. With Marquez back to the ropes, Manny fires another left, and again, the Mexican crumbles, his nose bloodied beyond recognition, and his brain rattling in confusion. What the hell just happened? Manny Pacquiao, that's what happened. Manuel Marquez hadn't seen anything like that, cried Jim Lampley on the HBO broadcast as Dina Mita walked back to his corner. Who has? Retorted Larry Merchant, his broadcast partner, without missing a beat. And know that the Mexican maestro came back to eke out a draw does not detract one bit from the holy shit mess of that first round. November 16th, 2009. A time for hope. November of 2009 will forever be remembered as the peak of Pacquiao mania, when fascination with the Filipino enveloped not only his native Philippines, but practically the entire world. Within days of his historic victory over Miguel Cotto, Manny's face grazed the cover of Time magazine, and he was also named one of that publication's Persons of the Year. It's not often a boxer's fame holds the same currency in all countries, and we really have to go back to Mike Tyson to find a name as recognizable on a global basis as that of Manny Pacquiao at that time, okay? But in fact, Manny drew more comparisons to Muhammad Ali than the Iron Mike, as he was both beloved and respected the world over. His name became synonymous with hope for millions. His fellow Filipinos hoped to see the Pac-Man cement his status as a worldwide ambassador of their country. Fight fans hoped the ascension of Manny Pacquiao would provide boxing a much-needed boost. And everyone hoped to see a confrontation for pound-for-pound supremacy with a returning Floyd Mayweather Jr. It's anyone's guess when we might ever again see a boxer hold that kind of global appeal. July 20th, 2019, one time falls to a 40-year-old. One time falls to a 40-year-old. It won't go down as the most scintillating of Manny Pacquiao's performances, but it was better than anyone had a right to expect. And for those who viewed Manny's refusal to retire with trepidation and dread, he was not a matchup they were looking forward. It was not a matchup they were looking forward to. After all, if Jeff Horn could give Pacquiao so much trouble 2 years before, and if at times Manny's legs looked like they were stuck in quicksand during his win over Adrian Broner, then clearly there were reasons to be concerned as the Filipino marvel set to face a legit top talent with his 41st birthday less than 6 months away. No one could refute that Father Time was on Thurman's side. Yeah, Father Time was on One Time's side coming into that one. But when the final bell rang, what was even harder to refute was that Manny Pacquiao had won. And all things considered, had looked fantastic in the process. In round 1, he sent Thurman to the floor with authority. In round 5, he battered him and bloodied his nose. In round 10, he almost decked Keith a second time with a vicious body shot. And in the final round, it was Manny taking the fight to the younger man and finishing with a flourish as he added yet another unforgettable moment to his amazing career. November 13th, 2010, Margarito gets mauled by the Pac-Man. Margarito gets mauled. Just looking at 12 amazing Manny Pacquiao moments. Okay? Now, following the Joshua Clottey letdown, Manny Pacquiao climbed up in weight to meet the largest foe he's faced in his career. In fact, many expected the Filipino Tijuana Tornado to land some serious leather on the smaller Pac-Man, though not many gave him a chance to win outright. And the Mexican did connect with some heavy artillery in round 6, when he capped off his best round with a monstrous body shot that made Manny grimace in pain. Nevertheless, this would prove a mere footnote in what became yet another dominant and fearsome display from Pac-Man. By the end of the night, Margarito's orbital bone was broken, his right eye swollen, comical proportions, and his career dumped into the dustbin of history by the Pac-Man. Okay? Career dumped into the dustbin of history. Many considered it rightful punishment to the Mexican for the shenanigans that preceded Margarito's fight with Shane Mosley almost 2 years prior. Others just reveled in another amazing Manny Pacquiao show, like kids watching a Disney-sponsored fireworks display, enjoying the endless stream of stinging rights and exploding lefts that render Margarito's mug almost unrecognizable. That Pacquiao left a former champion who outweighed him by 17 pounds and towered above him by a full 5 inches in a condition resembling the chopped liver made everyone sit up and reassess just how formidable a fighter the little Filipino was. July 2nd, 2017. Sting Operation. Virtually unknown, Jeff the Hornet Horn, along with over 50,000 rabid Australian fight fans, welcomed Manny Pacquiao into Brisbane's Suncorp Stadium for a welterweight title fight, largely seen as a cash grab for the Filipino. Fast forward 12 bloody action-packed rounds, and what we got instead was one of the most controversial, most talked about decisions of recent times. Most observers saw Manny Pacquiao emerge as the clear winner in a tougher than expected fight, but the judges awarded the hometown hero a decision that stripped Pacquiao of his title belt, cueing ESPN's Teddy Atlas into a trademark death-pounding red that became even more memorable than the fight itself. Atlas topped it off by confronting Horn about how and why he had lost the fight, telling him he didn't deserve the judge's nod in what he deemed an unmistakable home decision. Even by Teddy Atlas standards, this was bold to the extreme. And in fact, many speculate that ESPN's top brass was so unimpressed that this was the real reason they decided to part ways with the voluble trainer. November 15th, 2003. Aberia Feld. Yep. Arnie Boxing, salute. We talking about 12, what the F, Manny Pacquiao moments for the fight of the day, Arnie. But salute, okay? So, this is November 15th, 2003. A barrier failed. Okay? Pacquiao's first fight with Mexican star Marco Antonio Barrera represents a momentous occasion in the Filipino's career, as his stoppage of the baby-faced assassin validated the Pac-Man's credentials beyond all doubt and confirmed his membership among boxing's elite. A 3-1 favorite, Barrera was riding high after victories over Naseem Hamed, Eric Morales, and Johnny Tapia. But Manny twice knocked down the experienced warrior and pitched a shutout against a first ballot Hall of Famer. Pitched a shutout against the baby-faced assassin. Barrera himself knew from early on he was dealing with more than he had bargained for. For proof, look no further than the knockout he suffered in round 3. Pacquiao fires his trademark left squarely on Marco's chin, putting the Mexican on his butt. Barrera then sits forward, puts his arms on his knees, and lowers his head, a fitting tribute to Pacquiao's phenomenal talent. November 14th, 2009. Chopping up Cotto. Chopping up Cotto. Arguably, the single greatest performance in the amazing career of Manny Pacquiao, his overwhelming domination of the third best welterweight in the world at the time, in his first fight in the welterweight division for Pacquiao, moved the Godfather to proclaim him the greatest boxer I've ever seen, and I've seen them all, including Ali, Hagler, and Sugar Ray Leonard. The Godfather had drank too much Kool-Aid that night. Manny was good, but he wasn't all that. The Godfather had a little bit too much Kool-Aid. Okay. But it was a great performance by Manny. Take nothing away from him. But Ali, Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, yeah, somebody should have told the Godfather to put that Kool-Aid down. But anyway, sure, the Godfather's statement, like everything he says, was more than a little suspect. But given how high the boxing world was on Pacquiao in the aftermath of the Cotto win, the Godfather's comment accurately reflected the feelings of both fans and media members who had witnessed a lethal combination of speed and power, unlike anything in recent memory. To refine the Godfather's argument, the victory over Miguel Cotto made Pacquiao look more like the second coming of Henry Armstrong than anything else. A guy who could move between weight classes with unbelievable ease and not only defeat anyone he faced, but do it with dominance. May 2nd, 2015. Okay? May 2nd, 2015. Given all of Pacquiao's brilliant performances and thrilling battles, perhaps fans could have found it in their hearts to forgive the Pac-Man for the monumental egg he laid in his fight against Floyd Mayweather Jr. But in boxing, things are seldom that easy, especially when the so-called fight of the century was also the biggest cash grab of all time. No matter how beloved a fighter might be, fans who pay to see him perform expect at least a modicum of entertainment for their dollars. When Pacquiao, one of the most entertaining pugilists of his era, failed so spectacularly at giving the public their money's worth, after years of waiting for Maypac to happen, it felt like an unforgivable betrayal. fans were only further incensed when Manny blamed his performance on a shoulder injury, as it confirmed that they had shelled out a ridiculous amount of cash for a match in which one of the participants was nowhere near his optimal fighting shape. On the biggest stage of his career, Pacquiao fell embarrassingly short of the mark. It's 12 of Pacquiao's what the F moments in Manny Pacquiao's career. December 8th, 2012. He's not getting up, Jim. He's not getting up, Jim. Right. Here's, without a doubt, the most bittersweet of all Manny moments. After 3 hellacious, infuriating close contests, the Pac-Man and Dinamita met for a 4th and final time to settle the score once and for all. Both promised a knockout, as 3 distance fights had failed to result in the kind of resolution everyone wanted. Like junkies aching for a fix, we all glued ourselves to our screens to watch both Pacquiao and Marquez deliver on their promises, providing us their most consistently violent fight yet. Okay? As usual, Pacquiao attacked and Marquez countered, but the viciousness was cranked to 11. Both fighters clearly sick of each other at this point. Marquez dropped Pacquiao in the 3rd, but this only served to piss Manny off. The Filipino retaliated with non-stop combinations, his left hand lashing out again and again. In the dying seconds of round 6, with Marquez desperately looking for a chance to turn things around before reaching a point of no return, Pacquiao left himself wide open. Dinamita stepped outside of Manny's jab and countered with a short, stiff right that put an abrupt end to both the Filipinos' awesome onslaught and the fight. Still, it had been a while since we had seen Pacquiao so hungry, so intent on destruction. He was so good that night that, in the midst of all the chaos he unleashed, he forgot who he was punching at. The one guy on the planet willing to walk through hell to knock him out. And he's not getting up, Jim. Okay, a couple more. December 6, 2008. De La Hoya demolished. Okay? De La Hoya demolished. He demolished poor Oscar. Ended Oscar's career. De La Hoya versus Pacquiao was a shocker from the moment it was signed, given that the Golden Boy had not competed below the super welterweight limit in years, and the fact that the smaller man had never fought above lightweight. The so-called dream match was set at 147 pounds, with both observers expecting Oscar to struggle to make weight, but to then enter the ring with significant advantages in both weight and strength. These expectations, reflected by the 2-to-1 odds in Oscar's favor, were dashed when it became known that De La Hoya inexplicably stayed at the weight limit for days before the fight, showing up emaciated for both the weigh-in and on fight night. Okay? Thus, the astonishing unfolded before our eyes, with Manny Pacquiao beating up Oscar the way Superman would beat on a piñata if he really craved some candy. The never-ending bliss of left hands that transformed the Golden Boy's good looks into a gross caricature left Oscar to surrender on his stool before the start of the 9th round. By making Oscar quit and effectively retiring him, Pacquiao became not only boxing's kingpin, but also its pound-for-pound boss. And finally, May 2nd, 2009, the greatest hit. May 2nd, 2009, the greatest hit. Now, after retiring the Golden Boy, Pacquiao dropped down to lightweight, junior welterweight, to challenge lineal champion Ricky the Hitman Hatton in a megabucks matchup, right? The Mancunian entered the ring as a 2-1 underdog, but fireworks were expected, given both fighters' aggressive styles. A complete mismatch is what transpired, played in fast forward too, since Hatton had simply no way to keep up with the Pac-Man's devilish pace. A portent of the grand finale that was to come was the beauty of a knockdown Manny scored in the first round, landing a lightning quick right hook on Hatton's chin, right on the chin. First round. Then a second knockdown came, crashing from Ricky's face. Any last trace of self-confidence? Poor Ricky. If he only knew what was coming. To cap off the electrifying performance, Manny Pacquiao scored the most brutal one-punch knockout of his career. A measuring jab, followed by a sinister left, turned off the lights in Hatton's head and sent millions of Filipinos into ecstasy, millions of Brits into despair, and the rest of the boxing world into a furor. Was there anything the Filipino couldn't do? After such a chilling display of violence, no rival seemed too big, too good, or too strong for the great Manny Pacquiao. Just look at that damn left one more time and say with a straight face, you didn't think so too. Manny Pacquiao, okay? That was the fight of the day segment. 12 what the F Manny Pacquiao moments. Now we're going to look at 6 categories of the all-time greatest, starting with the all-time greatest uncrowned champions, okay? These are some of the all-time greatest uncrowned champions. 12 of them, okay? 12 champions, great fighters that never won the title that they deserved. Okay? Top 12 greatest uncrowned champions. How's everybody this Tuesday afternoon? Got a big week of boxing history still straight ahead of us. Okay, let's look at these uncrowned champions now. Mike Rim. What's up, Mike Rim? We got 6 different categories today. We're going to look at some of the best fighters that never won a championship. The all-time greatest catchers. That's fighters that take 2 or 3 punches to get one in, like a Jake LaMotta, Gaddy. The all-time masters of the jab. All-time greatest body punchers. All-time cockiest boxers. And the all-time worst cheap shots today. All that on Cash Sports The Box Story, bringing you all of that boxing history. Okay, let's look at these greatest fighters that never won a title now. Okay? So for most of boxing history, world title belts didn't grow on trees, as they say. And even title shots were a rare and much sought after commodity. Competition was fiercer back in the day, and to be a top contender was a major accomplishment. Fighting for a world title, let alone winning one, was rare and remarkable. Now times have changed, and now belts of various stripes abound to the point where few carry much genuine value anymore. Without a doubt, every boxer on this list we're going to talk about today, if they were competing today, would have had at least a couple of straps to show off. And more than a few of them were both unjustly denied title chances or got the title shots and were robbed of their win, which they had otherwise earned. So let's look at the all-time best uncrowned boxing kings. First, Wesley Ramey. Wesley Ramey. Ramey was a clever boxer and a legit all-time great lightweight with wins over the likes of Eddie Cool, the Coco Kid, Benny Bass, Tony Canzonieri, Johnny Jadick, and Lou Jenkins. With only 11 knockouts in an amazing 141 career wins, one speculates if his lack of power made him a poor draw and shut him out from championship contention. In any case, that he never got a chance to fight for the title is undeniably an injustice. Yeah, he never even got a shot to fight for the title. Okay? Next is Jim Driscoll. Jim Driscoll. Al Booger. What's up, Al Booger? We got a few different categories today. Right now, we're looking at some of the best fighters that never won a title. Some of them never even got title shots. Some of them got title shots and they were robbed of the win they deserved. Okay? Jim Driscoll. Despite victories over world champions George Dixon and Abe Patel, and highly competitive battles with Freddie Welch and Owen Moran, Driscoll himself never fought for a world title. That didn't stop many from regarding Peerless Jim, one of the ring's most clever and elusive maestros, as the greatest boxer who had ever lived. They fought some world champions, but back then they did this a lot. They would stipulate in the contract it wasn't for the title, right? You had certain fighters. The champion would be involved in the fight, but it would be in the contract. This one is not for the title, right? Harry Wills, another great fighter that never won a title. Harry Wills. Yeah, Harry made a big mistake back in the 20s. Now, they wouldn't make mixed race heavyweight championship fights after the riots happened between Jack Johnson and James J. Jeffries, but Harry Wills had the opportunity to fight Gene Tunney in a title eliminator, and he turned it down. And then Gene Tunney's next fight was against Jack Dempsey. So if Harry Wills would have took that fight and beat Gene Tunney, it would have been very hard to deny him his title shot. But I'd never had been able to find out why he didn't take that title eliminator against Gene Tunney. That was a huge mistake that he made right there. But Harry Wills never won a title, though. For a time in the 1920s, the Black Panther was the best heavyweight in the world. And there was even talk of his showdown with official heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey. But it never came to be. Even so, Wills holds wins over a host of top talents, including Louis Firpo, Big Bill Tate, Kid Norfolk, Sam Langford, Billy Miss, Sam McVeigh, Battling Siki, and Joe Jeanette. Yeah, those are some big names back in that era, but yeah, he should have fought Gene Tunney for that title eliminated. If he'd have beat Gene, they wouldn't have been able to deny him. Because when he turned it down, Gene went straight to the title fight. Okay? Jack Blackburn. He most famous for being Joe Louis's trainer. For the majority, Jack Blackburn trained Joe Louis until Jack's death. But yeah, he's most famous for that. In the Hall of Fame as a trainer. They say he should be in there as a fighter too. But he never got a title. Jack Blackburn. The man they call Chappie. Never got the big one. But he faced a long list of all-time greats. It has the distinction of having given tough battles to three true legends. Sam Langford, Harry Greb, and Joe Gans. Blackburn claimed to have answered the bell more than 400 times in his long career. Officially, they got him like 60, something like that, but he said he would get 400 times. And it could be true because record keeping was very sketchy back then, so yeah. Mike Gibbons, one of the Gibbons brothers, the Fighting Gibbons brothers. That's Mike on the right, him and his brother Tommy. I believe Tommy was a champion. Mike never got his title shot. Mike Gibbons. Okay? That's Mike on the right. Tommy on the left. Mm-hmm. Now, the smaller of the Gibbons brothers, Mike was too good for his own good and so failed to secure a shot at the middleweight title, despite battling the likes of Jeff Smith, Ted Kid Lewis, Packy McFarland, Michael Dowd, and Harry Greb. And Mike was one of those ones who ran into that a lot, where he fought champions, but they would have the contract. The title was not on the line. Like I said, Mike was too good for his own good. Right? Yep, Mike Gibbons. Willie Joyce. The best fighters that never won a title. A lot of them from back in the day. Willie Joyce. Tough, smart, and with a wicked left jab. Willie Joyce had the bad luck to compete in the same era as some of the best lightweights in boxing history. Even so, he more than held his own when battling such greats as Bo Jack, Chalky Wright, Lou Jenkins, and Tippy Larkin. Winning 2 of 4 against the immortal Henry Armstrong, and then 3 of 4 against the Williams. Ike Williams, the great Ike Williams, speaks volumes about Joyce's toughness and talent. And one of those times he fought Henry was one of those instances Henry didn't put the title on the line against Willie Joyce, okay? And guess what? Willie beat him. But the title, he beat Henry 2 out of 4, but either time he beat him, the title was not on the line. Mm-hmm. Yep. Willie Joyce. Henry Homicide Hype knew what was up. He said, I'm not putting my title on the line against you, Willie. No way. I want to keep my title. Patrick Packy McFarland. Yeah, Willie Joyce was a bad man. Patrick Packy McFarland. Another one. Great fighter, never won a title. Mm-hmm. A true boxing legend. Packy McFarland boasts an astonishing record of 70 wins, 5 draws, just 1 loss. He beat such fellow ring luminaries as Mike Gibbons and Owen Moran, not to mention world champions Jack Britton, Tommy Kilbane, and the great Freddie Welsh. But he never got a title. Then we got 3 straight Murderers Row fighters now. Nobody was gonna put their title on the line against these boys. Not even the great Sugar Ray Robinson. He wouldn't fight Charlie Burley. Okay? First Murderers Row fighter, Holman Williams. Holman Williams. One of the greats of the legendary Murderers Row group, Williams was famously cited by a genius trainer, Eddie Futch, as a pugilist so gifted, he would rather watch him shadowbox than see others actually fight. That was the great Eddie Futch, okay? Homer Williams bested such greats as Archie Moore, Burt Lytell, Charlie Burley, the Coco Kid, Lloyd Marshall, Kid to Nero, Jack Chase, and Eddie Booker. And most of those are other Murderers Row fighters. Nobody would fight them, so they had to fight each other. They fought each other 15, 20 times, Nobody would fight them. Another Murderers Row fighter, the Coco Kid. There he is, the Coco Kid. Herbert Lewis Hardwick, was an incredibly prolific battler, retiring with a career record of 178 wins, 58 losses, and 11 draws. Tragically, he never received a chance for a world title in either the welterweight or middleweight divisions, but he did notch wins over such top talents as Johnny Jadek, young Peter Jackson, Jack Chase, Eddie Booker, Chalky Wright, and Holman Williams. That is incredible, man. He not only won the title, he never received the title shot. And this man had 247 fights. So he had to be dangerous. 247 fights. Nobody never gave him a title shot. One of the great Murderous Road fighters. The Coco Kid. Herbert Lewis Hardwick. Wow. Incredible. Lou Tendler. Never got a title shot. The great Lou Tendler. There's Lou. He's some fighters never got title shots. Lou Tendler got a couple more. Then we're going to go to the next category. Lou Tendler. Now, had he competed at any other time in boxing history, he would have been a world champion. As it was, Tendler had the misfortune of competing during an absolute golden age for the 135-pound class. He came closer than anyone else to defeating the great Benny Leonard when the Ghetto Wizard was in his prime. And later, Tendler dropped a very close decision to the great toy bulldog, Mickey Walker. But, as they say, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Still, Tendler, one of boxing's greatest southpaws, can forever boast victories over the likes of Rocky Kansas, Johnny Dundee, Pinky Mitchell, Frankie Callahan, Oakland Jimmy Duffy, and Richie Mitchell. Okay? Yep, but never got that title. And here's the guy, they call him the best of the Murderous Road fighters, Charlie Burley. It's amazing, him and the Coco Kids. Look at that. You would think that was the same person, wouldn't you? Look at that. Coco Kid, Charlie Burley. Those are two different people. They fought each other, too. I bet that was crazy. Look at that. The Coco Kid, right? Coco Kid, Charlie Burley. No, that's not the same person. But Charlie Burley, they call him the best of the Murderous Road fighters. Next to Sam Langford, he's the best fighter to never win a title after Sam Langford. The best of the bunch in the unfairly ostracized Murderous Road gang, Burley couldn't get a break or a chance at the middleweight title. But all knew how great he was after he amassed a record of 83 wins, 12 losses, and 2 draws, and defeated such top-shelf warriors as Holman Williams, Jimmy Leto, Fritzy Zivic, Jack Chase, Oakland Billy Smith, Jackie Burke, Archie Moore, Burt Lytell, and the Coco Kid. And the great Sugar Ray Robinson ducked Charlie Burley, okay? And the greatest fighter to never win a title, of course, was the Boston Bone Crusher, Sam Langford. No argument for nobody on that. Definitely the greatest fighter to never win a title. The Boston Bone Crusher, Sam Langford. Of all the truly great fighters to never win a world title, the Boston Bone Crusher stands supreme. Virtually all of his best opponents, including Harry Wills, Fireman Jim Flynn, Joe Jeanette, and many others, hailed him as the most powerful and vicious puncher they had ever faced. In his later years, heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey admitted he avoided giving Langford a title shot and told sports writers Jimmy Cannon, Sam probably would have knocked me out. Jack Dempsey admitted that. And Sam was really a middleweight, right? Early in his career, Sam faced 2 world champions, but when he defeated Joe Gans, the lightweight title was not on the line. And when he battled the original Barbados Joe Walcott for the welterweight crown, the fight was declared a draw, even though first-hand accounts indicate most present thought Langford was the winner, right? The Boston Terror was so capable a ring master towards the end of his long and prolific career, he was scoring knockouts when almost completely blind. Bottom line, Sam Langford is forever one of the greatest boxers who has ever lived, pound for pound, and the all-time best to never strap on a world championship belt. Yeah, he had fought 2 champions, but Joe Gans, again, didn't put the belt on the line against Sam. And Barbados Joe Walcott, they fought for the welterweight title, but they called it a draw. They robbed Sam. He was going up against another black fighter then, and he still robbed, right? Got a whole host of honorable mentions. We're not going to go through them. We're going to go to the next category, which is all-time greatest catchers. These are fighters that give up 3 punches just to get 1 in, okay? And that's the Boston Strong boy there, John L. Sullivan. Yeah, they call them catchers, like Jake LaMotta, Gaddy. Give up 3, 4, 5 punches just to get 1 in, right? Also, these guys would be some of the best chins too, you know. Have to have a chin to fight in that style, to be a catcher, right? A great chin is mandatory. But I was going to do greatest chins too, but then I look at the greatest chins, it's just about what the exact same people as the greatest catchers, right? So I said, no. Oh, no, man. I'm not talking about no damn baseball catchers. They got Johnny Bench and Carlton Fisk. No, not them. Oh, so those are great catchers too. In baseball. I was reading this all half the day yesterday. Nothing about no baseball came up till right now. That's crazy. Here we go. I think. Yeah, this is it. Johnny Bench. Bruce Gas in the building. What's up, Bruce Gas? We're looking at the best in some different categories today, Bruce. Now the all-time greatest catchers. You know, those guys that give up 3 punches to get 1 of their own in. Give up 5 to get 1 of their own in. Like Jake, those type of guys. Okay. So let's look at some of the great catchers now. Okay. Between 1940, when Sugar Ray Robinson began his pro career in 1951, when he lost to Randolph Turpin, the legendary Robinson would post an incredible record of 129 pro wins against 2 draws and just 1 loss. That lone setback was to Jake LaMotta. And the case can be made that no other boxer ever defeated a peak version of the great Sugar Ray Robinson. And conceivably, only a fighter as aggressive and relentless as the aptly nicknamed Bronze Bull could have earned that singular win. Okay, so now let's look at some of these great catchers. Okay, yeah, the first one is John L. Sullivan. John L. Sullivan, the Boston Strong Boy. He was the last bare knuckles champion and the first glove champion. John L. As tough as they come, Sullivan's style was to a significant degree predicated on taking his adversary's best punches and wearing them down before landing his own knockout shots. in fights to the finish or matches scheduled for as many as 80 rounds. Right, yeah, he fought during that era. Wasn't no 15 rounds. Fought till one man went down. Or they both just said, that's it. Call it a draw. Right? 80, 70, 80. I know of one he fought 75 against Jake Kilrain. We talked about that one before. But another great catcher, Bobby Chacon. Bobby Chacon, okay? That looks like him and Salvador Sanchez. Oh, yeah, but that's Bobby on the left. Bobby Chacon. Skywalker Boxeo's uncle from the TWT family. It was for Hart as big as California State University, where he briefly studied before becoming a professional prize fighter. The schoolboy appeared eager at times to sample his opponent's power before landing his own. His willingness to battle in the trenches, giving fight fans some of the most thrilling action in recent boxing history. The schoolboy, Bobby Chacon, tough man there. Rocky Graciano, these are all tough guys here. Catchers, taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 punches to get their own one in. What's up, Technique, in the building today? Looking at a couple of different categories, Technique. Now we're looking at some of the toughest, these are catchers, but also some of the toughest boxers of all time, right? Willing to take punches, 3 to get one in. All tough guys here. Rocky Graciano, okay? The Rock knew only one way to fight, coming straight ahead and trading shots with heavy hitters like Tony Gennaro, Charlie Fusari, Tony Zale, and Sugar Ray Robinson, happily taking 4 or 5 blows in exchange for just one of his own pulverizing right hands, okay? But he had fight-ending power. You know, he might take 4 or 5 of yours, but that one he land might be the end of it, okay? Mandatory to have a great chin to fight in the catcher style, though. And you know this one on here. You can't do no list of catchers and tough guys in boxing without having him. Thunder. Well, both of them, really. But we talking about Thunder right now, Arturo Gatti. That's him and Mickey Ward. But Thunder, Arturo Gatti. Okay? While Thunder actually possessed sound boxing skills, this born warrior always found a good toe-to-toe slugfest impossible to resist. Even when he won, Gatti often absorbed a frightful number of flush shots, in the process giving boxing a series of incredibly exciting slugfests, including his memorable trilogy with Mickey Ward. Yeah, we already did that one, remember? Yeah, I told you. Gatti just had a way of making people brawl. Like I told y'all last week, he would make Devin Haney stand in the pocket and go toe-to-toe. Gatti just had that knack. Him and Devin in the prime, he would have Devin stand in the pocket going toe-to-toe with Gatti. Yeah, Thunder. He just had a way of making everybody stand in there and go at it. Right? Okay, the next catcher is the Onion Farmer, Gene Fullmer, another tough guy. One of the middleweights from the 50s, I'm always ranting and raving about Gene Fullmer. Yeah. And that's Fullmer on the right. That's taking one of the punches he'd taken to get his in. See? Taking one right in the nose. Yep. That's Fullmer on the right. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I think Carmen Masilio might have been the Onion Farmer. Fullmer was the Utah Cyclones' principal weapons were his physical strength and extraordinary toughness as he bulled and bullied his opponents around the ring while taking punch after punch in grueling battles with champions such as Sugar Ray Robinson, Joey Giardello, Carmen Masilio, and Dick Tiger. Yeah, those are all great 50s middleweights I was talking about. Sugar Ray Robinson, Joey Giardello, Carmen Masilio, and the great Dick Tiger. And Gene Fullmer. Okay, next is Matthew Saad Muhammad. Matthew Saad Muhammad. There's Matthew on the right there. Yeah, Saad Muhammad. Yeah, 100% technique. Gaddy could take a hell of a beating. Even when he won, he always looked the worst of the two fighters. Even when he was the winner, you were looking at the two fighters, you would swear Gaddy lost, but even when he won the fight, he still looked the more beat up. That's just how he fought, man. Tough guy there. Matthew Saad Muhammad. Miracle Matthew gained fame for a series of high-stakes wars in which, for several rounds, he would take a terrible pounding before dramatically reversing his fortunes to score thrilling come-from-behind wins over such battlers as Marvin Johnson, John Conte, and Yaki Lopez. Yeah, and I thought that 50s was the best for middleweights. I thought that came right there for those light heavyweights. 80s. Yeah, Marvin Johnson, John Conte, Yaki Lopez, Michael Spinks. Yeah. 80s was a great decade for light heavyweight. Of course, you gotta have The Rock on there. He was a tough guy. Marciano. That's him and Ezra Charles there. Rocky Marciano. The only undefeated heavyweight champion achieved astonishing success with a simple ring technique. March forward, take the other man's best shots, and then overwhelm him with non-stop pressure and punishment. The Brockton Blockbuster withstood heavy blows from such greats as Joe Louis, Jersey Joe Walcott, Ezra Charles, and Archie Moore, and always came roaring back to win. The Rock. Bojack. Looking at some great catches. These are some of the toughest fighters ever. Bojack. There's Bojack. Not Bo-Mac, Bojack. Okay. Bojack. Fight fans knew that with Sidney Walker's brawling, swarming style, it was the real name, Sidney Walker, drama and excitement were guaranteed. And so the tough as nails, Bojack, a survivor of the repugnant battle royals, brought huge crowds out to his clashes with Bob Montgomery, Fritzy Zivic, Ike Williams, and Kid Gavilan. In the battle royals, they would put a whole bunch of, this was back in the early 20th century, they would put a whole bunch of black fighters in the ring, blindfold them, and then they would fight until one was left standing. Yeah. Bojack participated in them before, everything became a little bit fairer and they got their chance. And there's Carmen Basilio. I knew Carmen was in there. Carmen Basilio. That's Carmen delivering the punch there. The great Carmen Basilio. And that's him going up against Gene Foreman. Yeah. Two tough middleweights from the 50s. A straight-ahead pressure fighter with a heart as big as the onion farm he came from. Basilio never minded taking heavy punches from the likes of Tony DeMarco, Gene Foreman, and the great Sugar Ray Robinson. Yeah, Carmen was the onion farmer. Battling Nelson. Going back a ways now, Battling Nelson. And that's Battling Nelson taking the shot right there. Okay? Taking one of his 4 or 5 to get his one in. Danish brawler and world lightweight champion Oscar Matthews Nelson had the durability to stay in the pocket with such all-time greats as Abe Patel, Joe Gans, and Ad Walgas in grueling wars of attrition that lasted 30 rounds or more. He fought in that era. Battling wasn't above going south of the border a lot, headbutting, healing, eye gouging, stepping on your toes, tripping. Battling wasn't above none of that. Okay. The great Battling Nelson. Okay, Jake LaMotta. Knew Jake was coming. One of the toughest fighters of all time, Jake LaMotta. The Bronze Bull fought with a legendary disregard for his own safety. The middleweight champion eating punch after punch like it was starving for leather before eventually bringing his own lethal power to bear in battles with such greats as Marcel Cerdan, Holman Williams, Fritzy Zivik, Tommy Bell, and of course, Sugar Ray Robinson. And finally, Joe Grimm, the last of the great catchers. Tough guys, man. Joe Grimm. Okay? Not for nothing was Grimm's nickname the Human Punching Bag. That was his nickname, the Human Punching Bag. Okay? What a nickname for a boxer, the Human Punching Bag. This fighter's entire strategy was to catch and keep catching, hoping that eventually his opponent would keel over from exhaustion. While he holds the record for most knockdowns in a single fight, hitting the floor 20 times against the great Bob Fitzsimmons, he also was rarely stopped, suffering only 6 knockout defeats in a career of some 150 fights in which he absorbed thousands of punches. Now that's a catcher. That's why he's number one. Hold a record for not getting knocked down 20 times in one fight, but only stopped 6 times in 150 fights. So he bent, but he didn't break. Right? Okay. Those are the catchers. The next category is going to be catchers. Masters of the jab. Catchers, yeah. Masters of the jab is the next category. And there's the great Sonny Liston, one of the great jabbers of all time. Yeah, Masters of the jab is next. Okay? Masters of the jab. Okay. All right. Let's get Masters of the jab going. Yeah, we're just talking about some different categories today. Tomorrow is going to be Gene Fullmer, requested by BVO Sports TV from the STN. We're going to talk about Gene Fullmer, the long count, some of the fighters he went up against from the 20s. Yeah, the great fight with Harry Grave he had. Gene Tunney tomorrow. That's going to be good. Now, with few exceptions, the jab is every fighter's most fundamental weapon, the key punch that sets up everything else. Without the jab, a boxer cannot effectively establish rhythm, distance, and timing. Crucial for both offense and defense, the jab is the vital weapon that all boxers learn first. Now let's take a look at some of the pugilists who carried the most dangerous and effective jabs, right? Of course, the big bear is first, Sonny Liston. Maybe no one has thrown a harder left jab than an incredibly intimidating Liston. Known to have actually removed teeth with his jab, the jab of a prime Sonny Liston was a deadly weapon, the big bear. You know how they had the power punches and then the jab. All Sonny Liston, the jab was a power punch for Sonny Liston, okay? That was a power punch for the big bear, okay? Masters of the jab, the hitman, Thomas Hearns. Then there's Thomas Hill. What's up, Thomas Hill? How are you? You talking about the big bear's jab, T. Hill? Yeah. Yeah, the big bear, all his punches were power punches, even the jab. Right? Told y'all how he split through the man's head, getting knocked out like 8 teeth. I think he knocked out 4 and like loosened up 4 more with a jab. Just split through the headgear. It was sparring, right? The big bear. Thomas Hearns, one of the ring's most wicked jabs, was perfected in Detroit's famous Kronk Gym. Hearns was renowned for its devastating right hand, but it was the sharp and powerful jab that created openings for that vicious right. Okay? Yeah. It was that jab that set everything up. Go back a ways. James J. Corbett. The great jab. The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus in the building. What's up, bro? How are you? Haven't seen you in a minute. Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Anybody not subscribe? Subscribe to the Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. Great channel. Good job calling fights. Salute. The Boxing Menu Podcast Plus. We talk about some of the great jabbers right now. The Big Bear, Thomas Hearns. Now James J. Corbett also had a good jab. As one of the earliest pure boxers, Gentleman Jim relied heavily on his left jab to keep larger, stronger opponents at bay and create openings for his right hand. Yes, what the jab is for. Setting up that right, among other things too. Okay. Harold Johnson, back 40s, 50s, 60s. Harold Johnson, he had a good long career. He had a good jab. The light heavyweight champion they nicknamed Hercules owed much of his success to his excellent left lead, which he utilized with exemplary precision and timing. Harold Johnson. Gotta have him. You know, Muhammad Ali. As he famously told all who would listen, and even those who wouldn't listen, the Louisville lip could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. The hands can't hit what the eyes can't see. And the punch that did most of the stinging was a rapier-like jab that was so quick, few could block or evade it. Yeah. Most people would see it on the way back, right? After Ali threw the jab, most people would see it when he pulling it back. You didn't see it coming forward towards you. It was that fast. The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Some great jabbers. The Brown Bomber. Joe Louis was one of the most correct punchers in boxing history. Left hook, uppercut, straight right. The Brown Bomber mastered them all. It was no different with the jab. But with Joe's incredible power behind it, his left hand was a wrecking ball. The Brown Bomber. Marvelous Marvin Hagler had a good one too. Jab. Marvelous. The Marvelous One. The Marvelous One is rightfully regarded as one of the greatest southpaws in boxing history, but he was a converted southpaw, which meant his true power hand was the right, his front hand. As a result, his southpaw jab was a deadly weapon, packing tremendous force and velocity. Yeah, he was really right-handed, so that lead hand was, that jab was wicked, right? Yeah, that's significant there. Tommy Loughran. Go back a ways again. He had a good one. Tommy Loughran. The all-time great they called the Philly Phantom was revered for his ring intelligence and his left jab, which he depended on to bother, buffet, and befuddle his opponents. The Philly Phantom, Tommy Loughran. Couldn't leave this guy off neither, you know. He's going to Marcos Madonna's body with a jab. Yeah, that's right on the belt, man. Yeah, that's clean. Arguably, the finest technical boxer of his generation, the pugilist they once called Pretty Boy boasted one of the prettiest left leads you might ever see in the squared circle. A dangerous and essential weapon for Floyd, both upstairs and down. Yeah, there he is going downstairs with him on Marcos Madonna. That's right on the line, Floyd. Right on the line there. That's half good, half bad. Right? Half good, half bad. but Floyd had a great jab. The Ghetto Wizard, Benny Leonard. Here he is. If Duran ain't the best lightweight, then it's this guy right here, the Ghetto Wizard. He's in my top 10 pound for pound best, about 8. Benny Leonard, yeah. One of the top 10 greatest fighters of all time, the Ghetto Wizard. Trained by Ray Arcel. One of the true artists of the ring. The Ghetto Wizard didn't have just one jab, but a host of them, all with a different purpose. Some set up specific combinations, some maneuvered their opponent, while others could rattle one's teeth. He had a power jab too, the Ghetto Wizard. And y'all know good and well, you talking about jabs. Y'all knew he was coming. Had to know. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Who is that he's fighting there? Is that, I don't know. No, that's not Trevor Berbick. Greg Snipes, no. Renato Snipes. Greg Page? Yeah, that might be Greg Page, I think. Is that Greg Page, anybody? Eastern Assassin fighting there. But Larry Holmes, talking about jabs. You know you got to have Larry Holmes, and you got to have him there at the top. Early in his pro career, the Eastern Assassin injured his right hand while he swatted, waited for it to. He injured his right hand early in his career. And while he waited for it to heal, he spent countless hours in the gym developing his left jab. So sharp and powerful it became, the finest the heavyweight division has ever seen. Even he learned it from Ali, but I think his became even better than Ali's, right? And number one is the old master, Joe Gans, the first American champion, first American professional boxing champion. I mean, first Black American professional boxing champion, that is, Joe Gans. The old master fought from 1893 to 1909 and is credited by most with actually inventing the jab. Credited with inventing the jab, the old master. He developed the art of using it both defensively to disrupt his opponent's attack or on the offense to force a retreat and set up his dangerous right hand. Yeah, he was doing scientific boxing when they were just, he fought in the era of toe to mark, where you come out after the round and then they give you like 30 seconds and then the referee holler mark. You come out, it was a mark in the middle of the ring, come out there and toe it, the round begin, and then that's where the fight would be for most of the round, right there going at it, toe to toe. But then the old master came in and invented movement, footwork, jab, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he was the first scientific boxer, Joe Gans. Because he was a small guy, and he said, I can't stand here with these big guys that go toe to toe. So he started moving, using footwork, jab. That's why I always say, you don't just have to have pop to keep people off of you. Use your feet and your movement stuff. That's what Joe Gans did when he invented scientific boxing. Okay? Well, George Dixon kind of invented it, but Joe Gans took it to the next level. Little chocolate, George Dixon. Okay? So now we're going to go to body punches. Body punches. Some of the great body men. Okay? Some of the great body men. And that's Mickey Ward there. Talking about body punching. Yeah. Mickey Ward. Yes. Great body puncher. He caught Gaddy with that liver shot. And I said, that's it. Gaddy got up. Right? And won the next round. And Ward caught him squarely. I just knew that was it. Gaddy. Anybody else, that would have been it. Gaddy got up and came up fighting and won the next round. But all-time great body punches. Now. Okay. Now. Body punches don't get enough love. Dramatic instances where a paralyzing left hook to the liver or a crushing right to the ribs produces a knockout. Much of the time, an effective body attack is overlooked, even by ringside judges. And yet, there exist few more advantageous strategies in boxing than sapping an opponent's strength, stamina, and will with an assault to the body. Right? Yes, sir. Nothing beats a great body attack. Especially you started early in that first round and weigh them down. Most boxers do mix some hard body blows into their arsenal, but then there are the warriors who make body punching an essential part of their ring craft. So we're going to look at 12 pugilists who utilize body batterings to their utmost effectiveness. Boxing's best body punchers. And first is Mickey Ward. Mickey Ward. Okay? Irish Mickey Ward's signature punch was an extremely effective left hook to the liver, a weapon that earned him more than a few clean knockouts. Few boxers have relied so much on that single debilitating weapon than Irish Mickey Ward. The explosive Thin Man had a vicious body attack too. The explosive Thin Man. The explosive Thin Man understood well the value of patiently digging hard blows to the midsection to wear the opponent down. A body punch wizard, Arguello often mixed head and body blows in the same combination. Okay? The legendary explosive Thin Man. The toy bulldog, Mickey Walker. Yeah, these are short. I'm not going to bore y'all, I promise. The toy bulldog, Mickey Walker. An extraordinary brawler and swarmer, the great toy bulldog broke down much heavier and bigger opponents with his non-stop body attack. Yeah, I remember him and Harry Greb fought back in the 20s, and they fought that night, and guess what? They had the rematch later on in a bar that night. After the fight, they both went to this bar, and they got in there and got in a fight in the bar. Then they went out to the parking lot and had the rematch that same night of the fight in a bar. That's what you call an immediate rematch right there. Immediate rematch. A couple hours later on in a bar down the street from the arena. Smoking Joe Frazier. You talking about body punches? Smoking Joe Frazier. Not Frazier. Frazier. Smoking Joe Frazier. Like Howard Cosell used to say it. Smoking Joe's ferocious attack started with full attention to his opponent's midsection. His left hook to the body, softening his man up for the impending assault directed upstairs. Yeah, that left hook to the body was vicious for Smoking Joe. Yeah. Billy Patrol. He was in the fight of the day the other day, remember? Italian-American fighter, Billy Patrol. Tough and aggressive, the Fargo Express was famed for his two-fisted body hammering, anchored by his potent left hook. Yeah, another one with a great left hook. And y'all know good and well, you can't talk about no body punches without him. I mean, the man's name is the Body Snatcher. How you gonna do something on body punching and leave him out? The Body Snatcher, right? Not for nothing did they call Mike McCallum the Body Snatcher, right? Conquered Harold Graham, Donald Curry, Milton McCrory, and Jeff Hardy. The Body Snatcher, Mike McCallum. Yeah. Got to have him in there. Julio Cesar Chavez. You talking about some great body punches now. Julio Cesar Chavez. The sound of JC Superstar landing life-sapping body punches was a familiar one in the 1990s as Julio's fists buried themselves under the ribs of no fewer than 87 stoppage victims. When talk turns to great body punches, the line of Kulia Khan always comes up, has to come up. And then Jake again. Jake makes two categories. There's Jake on the right. Bullying inside in his trademark fashion and absorbing punishment in the process. Jake constantly worked at getting close and batter the torsos of such greats as Marcel Cerdan, Tommy Bell, Fritzy Zivik, Tommy Yaros, Holman Williams, and the great Sugar Ray Robinson. Tony Zale was another great body man. Put somebody down. Tony Zale. The Man of Steel was renowned for his cast-on determination to whack away at his opponent's ribs, methodically punishing and weighing them down with a two-fisted body attack. And Monday probably going to be Tony Zale and Rocky Graciano trilogy. Okay? Two of those fights won Fight of the Year. Okay? So that will probably be this Monday. Tony Zale, the Man of Steel, and Rocky Graciano. And there's the Boston Bone Crusher again. Sam Langford, great body puncher. The saga, whose original utterance, hit the body and the head dies, spawned many imitators. Sam Langford was a certified expert at blasting opponents with vicious blows downstairs. As heavyweight immortal Harry Wills said, "When Sam hit me to the body, I looked behind me to see if his fist had come out the other side." Wow. Homicide Hank. The Homicide Hank hit you everywhere. He was non-stop. Motion. He was Aaron Pryor before Aaron Pryor. Homicide Hank's modus operandi was all about getting close, sticking to the opponent like super glue, and unloading heavy artillery to the breadbasket. And finally, Bob Fitzsimmons. Bob Fitzsimmons. Last of the body people. Boxing's first Triple Crown champion, specialized in hard, energy-sapping body blows, and is credited with inventing the solar plexus punch. Okay? A single left hook to the body from Fitzsimmons won him the heavyweight championship of the world in his historic battle with James J. Corbett in 1897. Okay? So let's go to, we got two more categories. Cockiest boxers. Let's look at the cockiest boxers of all time now. The cockiest boxers of all time. Okay. There's the ghetto wizard again, Benny Leonard. Here we're going to look at the cockiest boxers of all time now. Okay. All right. Top 12 all-time cockiest boxers now. There's the ghetto wizard starting it off. Okay? There's confident and then there's cocky. The former being expected of any prize fighter with the guts to step into the ring, but the latter taking confidence and turning it into a spectacle, a display of verbal boldness or dramatic brassiness designed to impress and intimidate. Here are the 12 most arrogant boxers, the pugilists whose demonstrations of disdain for their opponents or overbearing presumption regarding their own abilities set them apart from their merely confident competitors. Benny Leonard, the ghetto wizard, is first. The ghetto wizard was an early practitioner of the cleverest psychological ploys, and projecting an aura of supreme confidence was one of them. His fans cheered with glee when, just before exiting the ring after another victory, Leonard smoothed a hand over his undisturbed coffer, cockily showing for all to see that his vanquished opponent couldn't even muss up his hair. Okay, the ghetto wizard. Next is Sweepy. Talk about some cocky boxers. Sweepy, Pernell Whitaker. Sweepy, one of the greatest boxers of the last 30 years or more, and one of the very best southpaws of all time, knew exactly how good he was and didn't shy away from letting people know it. Rightfully proud of his defensive prowess, he once boasted that if he didn't want God to hit him, he wouldn't. Okay? Sweepy. Ricardo Mayorga, yeah. He used to always color his hair and stuff, remember? Whether or not El Matador had the skills to compete with the very best didn't prevent him from displaying arrogance fit for a boxing king. Showing nothing but contempt for his opponents, Mayorga would offer the most vile insults between puffs on a cigarette, his smoking a demonstration of his complete lack of respect. His cockiness expressed itself in the ring by a wanton disregard for his own safety, as he routinely dropped his hands and purposely let fighters such as Vernon Forrest and Felix Trinidad tag him at will. Ricardo Mayorga. Yeah, he was nasty, man. Yes. Some of the stuff he would say, whew. Ricardo was terrible. Wilfredo Benitez. There's him and Sugar Ray in their face-off. You Ricardo Mayorga was nasty, though. Wow. In his prime, this Puerto Rican phenom, dubbed the Bible of boxing, fully embodied Latin arrogance. His hearty demeanor and sneers of contempt, not to mention some all-time great stare-downs, working to either enrage his opponents or unsettle their nerves. Such was the cockiness. He rarely deigned to train seriously, regarding such strenuous activity as completely unnecessary. Amazingly, during his best years, he was usually correct. Radar, Wilfred Benitez. And you know, got to have him. The Hands of Stone. Talking about some cocky boxers. Roberto Duran. For years, the very image of Latin machismo and cockiness, Duran liked to boast of how he could not only defeat his rivals, but also put them in the morgue. His contemptuous sneer became as much a part of his ring arsenal as his blistering right hand. And once he had mastered his opponents, he enjoyed taunting them, as he did Sugar Ray Leonard in their first fight, pointing at his chin and daring Ray to hit him. But he came to regret that, because in their second fight, Sugar Ray made him quit by doing the same thing to him. Yeah, Roberto came to regret that move right there. Yeah, he did. But yeah, Roberto. Yeah, Joe Frazier said Roberto Duran reminded him of Charles Manson. Yeah. Roy Jones Jr. We talking about cocky fighters now. Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. Yeah, that was a very good chess match there, Arnie. High level. It don't get no higher level than that. Benitez and Sugar Ray Leonard. Don't get no higher level than that. Roy Jones Jr. From playing basketball on the same day he defended the world title, and this competitive basketball, not just on the playground shooting around. From playing competitive basketball on the same day he defended the world title, to recording his own rap songs, celebrating his pugilistic feats, to verbally dismissing all opponents, Jones was nothing if not the cockiest dude around in the 1990s. And for so long, he could back his brasses up with one lopsided win after another. And Roy sang himself to the ring one time, remember? Sang doing his own ring walk. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Sang himself to the ring. Talking about cocky fighters. Macho. Hector Macho Camacho. Okay? In the early years, Macho Camacho developed an unrivaled knack for the preening and posturing of a most cocky young fighter. With his crazy costumes, flamboyant style, and shouts of "It's Macho time," the young Camacho displayed a distinct brand of Puerto Rican cockiness. He became a bit more humble after Edwin Rosario and Julio Cesar Chavez got done with, but by then he had earned his spot on this list. Yeah, and that skirt they wear, whatever they call that thing, that's part of Hector's legacy because he was the first one to wear that. Okay? Trust me, I've seen it. Everybody was like, what in the world is Hector got on? He was the first to wear that skirt or whatever they call that thing they wear down. That's part of Hector's legacy. Mm-hmm. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Talking about cocky fighters. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Money Mayweather took the art of overbearing arrogance to new lows with his YouTube rants, burning money in public, race baiting, and homophobic comments, not to mention his flouting of the rules of the sport with his cheap shots of Gaddy and Ortiz. And then immediately after his ring performance, we got his trash talk interviews where he mocked everyone verbally, abused 80-year-old men, and declared himself the greatest fighter of all time. Classy? No. Cocky? You bet. Talking about cocky fighters. The Prince Nassim Hamed. Okay? From his unrivaled ring entrances to his tiger stripe or leopard spot trunks, to his gyrating hips, to his penchant for talking of himself in the third person. The career of the Prince depended as much on his cocky, strutting style as it did on his crushing punching power. So much so that after he suffered his first loss, a one-sided drubbing courtesy of Marco Antonio Barrera, he was finished as a prize fighter. His supply of cocky confidence gone for good, along with his career. Okay? And John L. Sullivan, the Boston Strong Boy, was cocky too back in his time. The Boston Strong Boy, John L. Sullivan. The last heavyweight champion of bare knuckle boxing and the first of the glove era, Sullivan epitomized boxing cockiness with his famous boast, "I can lick any son of a bitch in the house." The first great American sports hero for a decade, he ruled with impunity, and his success bred a special brand of cockiness that added to his larger-than-life persona. And finally, on the list of the cocky fight, well, we got a couple more, two more. Next to last is the Galveston Giant, Jack Arthur Johnson. There he is on the left. Jack Arthur Johnson. Yeah, he was cocky. Yeah, Jack was. The Galveston Giant became the first black heavyweight champion of the world, and perhaps no other man had the required nerve to assume such a conspicuous position and endure all the hatred and ill will directed his way by an entire country. Johnson's unshakable belief in his own abilities allowed him to succeed in the face of such animosity, just as his verbal eloquence and sarcastic mocking of his opponents drove his legion of detractors crazy. Yeah, Jack would be in the ring talking to the fighter about how he's going to beat him up, and then he'd be inviting people in the audience to come in there and take his opponent's place. So yeah, he's talking to his opponent and people in the audience. inviting them to come get in the ring. And this from the first black heavyweight champion that they hated. And yeah, that was Jack Johnson, though. Yeah. Now you get in here then. See what I'm doing to your boy. And finally, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. Talk about the cocky fighters. No boxer before or since elevated so dramatically the whole idea of being cocky. Whether as Cassius Clay correctly predicted in the round he would stop an opponent, or as Ali proudly proclaiming himself the greatest of all times and verbally demolishing his competition in the build-up to a fight. The Louisville Lip personified cockiness and in the process made himself the biggest attraction in boxing. Okay, and finally, the last category is top 12 worst cheap shots. Top 12 worst cheap shots, okay? That is it. Got them all in too. I think. Oh. Yeah, top 12 worst cheap shots. It's going to be it. And there it is. Okay. Top 12 worst cheap shots. It's Jack Dempsey and Jack Sharkey there. Okay, let's take a look at the cheap shots. Top 12 worst cheap shots. Now, all intentional fouls or blindside hits are cheap. But for this list, we define a cheap shot, also known as a sucker punch, as a blow rendered when the opponent is not expecting it or clearly cannot defend himself. Following that definition, and after much deliberation, let's take a look at the 12 most egregious cheap shots ever committed. Okay? Wait one moment, please. Take a drink real quick. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. Any veterans in the chat, any veterans in the chat, appreciate your service. Okay. Happy Veterans Day. Okay. The 12 all-time worst cheap shots. I forgot what the subject was for a moment. Jack Dempsey versus Jack Sharkey, July 21st, 1927. Okay. This one gets on the list not so much because it's a sucker punch for the ages, but more because it's arguably the most famous one in boxing history. In the 7th round of a rough and tumble slugfest, Sharkey turned to complain to the referee about a low blow. The moment he did, the Manasseh Mauler struck home with a left hook that put the Boston Garb on the canvas for the count, ended the fight. It happened so fast, it's possible Dempsey didn't even realize what Sharkey was doing. But the situation wasn't lost on many in the crowd in Yankee Stadium, who felt Dempsey took unfair advantage. When questioned about the incident after the fight, Dempsey famously said, "What was I supposed to do? Write him a letter?" Yeah, the referee didn't say stop and he dropped his hand, so yeah, Jack clocked him. Okay. Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Arturo Gatti, June 25th, 2005. Late in the first round, Floyd moved in and put his forearm on the back of Gatti's neck as Gatti ducked, initiating a clinch. Referee Earl Morton clearly commanded stop punching. Floyd ignored him and landed a right and a hard left as Gatti straightened up. When Gatti turned to the referee to complain, Floyd stepped in and decked Gatti with a left hook. Arturo wasn't even looking at Floyd at the time. The referee ruled it a legitimate knockdown, and Floyd stopped Gatti in the 6th round. Yeah, those had no bearing on what happened. It was just going to be a beatdown, whatever way you looked at it. Yeah, that was just going to be a terrible beatdown anyway. Mike Tyson versus Orlin Norris, October 23rd, 1999. At the conclusion of the 1st round, Tyson and Norris were in a clinch. The bell sounded, ringing no less than 5 times as the referee worked to separate the fighters. Then, as Norris relaxed and dropped his hands, Tyson threw a left hook with his full weight behind it. Norris hit the deck like he'd been shot, falling so awkwardly he injured his right knee and could not continue. The fight was ruled a no contest. Yeah, the bell rang like 4 or 5 times and Mike still hit him. Yeah, Kenny Bayless was doing that one. Yeah, Mike still hit him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Arthur Abraham versus Andre Dirrell, March 27th, 2010. Having dominated most of the fight, Dirrell suddenly found himself on the defensive as Abraham, hopelessly behind on points, came on strong. In the 10th round, Abraham landed some heavy shots, even scoring a knockdown, which was erroneously ruled a slip by the referee. A frantic Abraham continued chasing in the 11th, and when Dirrell slipped on one of the plastic logos on the canvas and fell to a head squat, King Arthur slammed him with a right hand. Dirrell toppled over and seemingly lapsed into unconsciousness, his legs twitching. Abraham was disqualified. Dirrell claimed to be seriously injured by the foul and didn't compete again for almost 2 years. Wow. Marco Antonio Barrera versus Juan Manuel Marquez, March 17th, 2007. In round 7, Barrera connected with a perfectly timed counter right hand that dropped Dinamita to all fours. Instead of going immediately to the neutral corner, Barrera stood over Marquez, hesitated for a moment, and then blasted Marquez in the side of the head with another right hand. As a result, the legitimate knockdown was waved off by referee Jay Nady, who then deducted a point from the champion for the sucker punch. Marquez went on to win the decision. Yep, Juan Manuel came back and won that one too. Mm-hmm. Yep. He sure did. Derek Gainer versus Freddie Norwood, September 9th, 2000. One of the dirtiest fights in recent memory, involving pushing, shoving, headlocks, rabbit punches, body slams, butting, kidney punches, and enough low blows to make even Andrew Galata wince. The referee completely lost control of this one, but the crowning cheap shot happened right at the end as Gainer landed a vicious retaliatory low blow when the referee was restraining Norwood and had pinned his arms. Little Hagler couldn't recover, and for reasons Stephen Hawking wouldn't be able to understand, the fight was rewarded to Gainer. Yeah, was rewarded to Gainer. That was crazy. Floyd again. Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Victor Ortiz, September 17th, 2011. This was crazy here. I blame that on Victor though. Okay? Now, Ortiz inflicted a blatant headbutt on Mayweather near the end of the 4th round, leading to an immediate timeout as referee Joe Cortez deducted a point from Ortiz. A contrite Ortiz, with his hands down, and one out trying to shake Floyd's hand. Not realizing Cortez had signaled for the fight to continue, attempted to apologize to Floyd. When Floyd, with his hands on Ortiz's shoulders and nodding as if to accept the apology, abruptly cold-cocked Ortiz with a left hook and then an overhand right and ended the fight. Yep. Protect yourself at all times, Victor. What's up, Just Do Boxing? Coming up in a few minutes, 4 o'clock. Yeah, I blame Victor for that, though, man. He's standing there with his hand out trying to shake Floyd's hand. Apologize. The referee didn't say stop. Protect yourself at all times, even if the referee did say stop. But yeah, so that was Victor's own fault on that one. But Floyd clocked it, man. That was the end of it, too. Yep. Yeah, that was a crazy one. Billy Dibb versus Kaneki Yamaguchi. July 9th, 2009. We just looking at some cheap shots, some of the worst cheap shots of all time, Just Do, right now. Yeah. In a 5-star Hall of Fame example of incompetent officiating, Australian Billy Dibb was somehow awarded a first-round TKO victory after punching Yamaguchi in the face while he was on the canvas. Having already suffered a knockdown earlier in the fight, a frustrated Dibb rushed Yamaguchi, who lost his balance and fell to his knees. Dibb then blindsided his opponent with a left hand right in front of the Australian referee, who then deemed Yamaguchi unfit to continue. You talk about hometown cooking, right? Deemed Yamaguchi unfit to continue and incredibly awarded the fight to Dibb. And the man was on his knees, and the referee was standing right there, and the man hit him when he was on his knees. And he gave the man the fight. But Dibb was Australian, and so was the referee. So yeah, that was crazy. Roy Jones Jr. versus Montel Griffin, March 21st, 1997. After 8 rounds, Griffin appeared on his way to a huge upset win when Jones finally stepped in and landed a thunderous right hand in the ninth that had the challenger staggering all over the ring. Griffin soon dropped to one knee, and the moment he did, a frustrated Jones took the opportunity to pace Griffin with not one, but 2 illegal punches on his defenseless opponent. Griffin slumped to the canvas, and Roy was disqualified. But Roy did come back and knocked him out in the first round in the rematch. Yeah. Billy Papke versus Stanley Ketchel, September 7th, 1908. Papke had lost by decision to middleweight champion Ketchel 3 months earlier and was evidently determined to not let it happen again. At the opening bell, Ketchel offered to shake hands, and the Illinois Thunderbolt responded by smashing the champion in the face with a right hand, breaking Ketchel's nose. Soon the champion's eyes were swollen, but swollen shut, and Papke dominated the rest of the fight, battering Ketchel mercilessly and forcing a stoppage in round 12. The Michigan Assassin would have his revenge 2 months later, winning back the title and beating Papke so badly that following the fight, his own wife literally didn't recognize him. Wow. That's a beating. And the man's wife didn't recognize him. Woo. Benny Leonard versus Jack Britton, June 26, 1922. In one of the more bizarre moments in ring history, the great Benny Leonard appeared to either momentarily lose his marbles or, as some speculate, lost the fight on purpose. Britton appeared to be ahead on points when Leonard decked him with a hard body shot. As the referee counted, and with Britton on one knee, Leonard inexplicably rushed over and punched his opponent in the head, giving the referee no choice but to disqualify him. Right? What was he thinking about? Right in front of the referee. And finally, James Butler versus Richard Grant, November 23rd, 2001. After dropping a unanimous decision to Grant as part of a charity card to benefit the survivors of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, Butler executed the most cowardly sucker punch in boxing history. Following the announcement of the judge's decisions that he had lost, the two boxers approached one another, presumably to exchange congratulations. Instead, Butler, his gloves removed, leveled Grant with a full force overhand right to the face. At the moment Grant was hit, he was in the midst of attempting to embrace Butler. Grant suffered a dislocated jaw and a severely lacerated tongue. Butler was charged with assault and spent 4 months in prison for the vicious and cowardly attack, one of the ugliest incidents ever seen in a prize ring and easily the worst cheap shot of all time. He should have been barred permanently. His license revoked, but after the fight over, they get ready to embrace it. They hit the man. They had his gloves removed, right? Yeah, he should have been barred indefinitely from boxing after that. But yeah, there you have it. We did the all-time greatest uncrowned champions, all-time greatest catchers, all-time masters of the jab, all-time greatest body punchers, all-time cockiest boxers, and all-time worst cheap shot. Yeah, that last one, he should have been barred forever. Never box again in a ring. But appreciate everybody. Just Do Boxing, the Boxing Menu Podcast Plus, Thomas Hill, Technique, Bruce Gass, Boxing Jazz and more, Al Booger, Mike Rim, Irony Boxing, Mike Mazzick, The Drunk Irishman, and Miss Cass. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Gene Tunney, brought to you by BBO Boxing TV. Thursday, boxing in Germany. Friday, the life and career of Mikey Garcia. Appreciate everybody. 1,000,000%. Just Do Boxing is on deck. This is Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Everybody have a great afternoon.